Hey guys, it's Matt with CJ Off-Road here. Now in front of me on the table, I've got a bunch of Hawk Performance parts, and we're going to be installing them onto our 2018 F-150 SEMA build that we built for the Ford booth a few years back. Now this truck has been in service and has been driven about 20 to 30,000 miles, and honestly, it has been a great time, but we need to upgrade a few parts on it. The first thing that we need to upgrade are going to be the rotors and pads. So we reached out to our friends over at Hawk Performance and said, hey, we've got this large truck, it's on 37s, we need something that's gonna make it stop and perform like almost factory or even better. And they sent us a complete set of their Hawk Talon rotors, as well as their LTS light truck and SUV series pads. Now what these are gonna do is they're gonna be a complete direct bolt-on kit. You're not gonna need any extra parts to get this done, and these are gonna perform a heck of a lot better than the factory rotors and pads. Now, being that ours are pretty much worn out in the front and in the back, they're almost metal on metal between the rotors and pads, these are going to be a necessary upgrade for this truck. Now, these rotors are drilled and slotted, which is going to help reduce the heat as well as reduce noise and create a better stopping force with the rotors and combined with their LTS pads. And we just set some of their brake fluid up here on the table. Now we're gonna go ahead and show you how to get these installed on your 2018 F-150, but if you have any other vehicle, be sure to check on CJ Pony Parts for all of your Hawk Performance rotors and pads, as well as brake fluid and any other components that they make to help the stopping force of your vehicle. Now that being said, let's get it started. So the first thing you wanna do is go ahead and grab a 13mm box wrench, and we're gonna release the caliper bracket bolts so that way we can get the pads out. Now Brendon's gonna do this for me here. And once those bolts are removed, you can slide the caliper off. Now you can see that our factory pads are they're just about shot on here. And honestly, with a truck this size, with a 7-inch kit and the 37s, definitely is a great idea to upgrade your rotors and pads to help you get some more stopping force. Now using a 21mm socket, go ahead and remove the two larger caliper bolts, and then we can pull the bracket away so we can have access to our rotor and get that removed as well. Now we can remove our rotor. Luckily for us, it popped right off. And then for the Hawk Talon rotors, they are labeled left and right side. So the passenger side is going to be the right side, and then your driver's side will be the left. So make sure you read it. It is etched in there, and I'll have Brendon point it out. You'll see exactly where it's etched in. But make sure you read the letter on there. Put the right on the passenger side and the left on the driver's side. And we can go ahead and reattach our caliper bracket and throw some pads in. Now you can see we do have the factory bolts removed, and what you'll need to do is throw on some red Loctite, and then we can reinstall the caliper bracket over top of the new Hawk Talon rotor. Now what we're going to do is just go ahead and get both of those started, and then we will torque these down to factory specifications. Now go ahead and torque the bolts down to 184 foot-pounds. So now it's time to go ahead and grab your Hawk LTS pads, and Brendon's actually got the included Hawk grease head grease, where he's just going to get both of the ends a little bit, the back pad. Now what this is going to do is just reduce any friction and noise that you're going to get from these, which these are very, very well made. You shouldn't get any noise even without grease, but it's really nice that they include this for you. Now with this one, with the two small humps, you see Brendon will point them out to you. That is going to go towards the actual piston. So that's going to go on the back side of the caliper and right next to the piston. And he's just going to go ahead and slide that into the caliper bracket from behind. Go ahead and grease the front one the exact same way. Make sure you save a little bit left when you do these two, because you will be doing the exact same thing on the other side. But it's nice that Hawk includes that. They really do think of everything when you're buying these kits. So as you can see, they seated in there very nicely. Just push the rotor back a little bit, and then we can get the caliper slid right into place. Now here's a tip: if your caliper pistons are out too far and you need to push them back in, go ahead and set your old pad into place and go ahead and use a C-clamp to compress both of the pistons down. We've already done it, but that's a tip that Brendon said to me, and it works every time in order to not damage your caliper. So this should slide right into place. And just like that, we can reinstall both of our caliper slide bolts on there, and we'll be done on this side. All right guys, it's now time to move on to the rear rotors and pads, and the first thing you need to do, and you don't actually need to remove the entire caliper bracket, you're just going to use a 17mm box wrench. So basically you're going to use a 13 and a 17 to release those slide bolts so we can push that backwards. And then with this rear caliper, since the e-brake is built into that, this is a twist-in style caliper, so don't just go ahead and grab a clamp and push that in. You're going to need to use a tool, and they make them specially for that. So we're going to go ahead and twist that in, install all of our new components, but first we got to get some old stuff removed. Now we can go ahead and remove the old pads. And just by looking at them, they look like they're pretty worn. Brendon, show those to the camera here. Yeah, definitely time for an upgrade. So good thing we're getting on a set of new Hawk LTS pads, as well as a set of rotors. It's really gonna help this truck. Now it's time to tap the rotor off. Now what you'll do is Brendon's just gonna tap in that exposed area behind where the caliper would sit and just keep rotating it so it comes off nice and smooth. Luckily for us, it didn't take too much and it popped right off. All right guys, now that we have everything removed, it is time to put on our rotor. You can actually see on the back of the Ford, on the inside of the dust shield, it has a big R stamped on. So if I didn't tell you, there's the R on there. Make sure you grab the right-hand side. This is particularly important based on the way they are drilled and slotted, so make sure you are putting them on the right side. Once you have the rotor slid on, we can then go ahead and install the exact same grease that we did on the front in the same spots, just to make sure that we don't have any sort of squeaks or noise, and this will keep them smooth and looking and lasting for a very long time. Go ahead and do that onto both of them, slide them into the slides, and then we can put the caliper back on. Now in the rear, they are the exact same, so there's no hump or anything like that that you need to be careful of. They're the exact same style for the pads. Just go ahead and put the grease, and then you can put them on either side. Go ahead and put a little bit of Loctite onto the bolts, and then you're gonna go ahead and get your caliper reinstalled and then torque that down to factory specifications. Once again, using that 17mm box wrench to hold the jam nut on the inside and then a 13 on the outside. All right guys, well just like that, we've got the entire set of rotors and pads installed onto our truck, and they're not only looking great, but I'm sure they're gonna perform great once we take it out on the road. Now of course, we are gonna get our wheels and tires mounted and tighten those down to factory torque specs too. Do not forget that step. But once you do have that done, there's a couple things that you want to do once you have these on here to make sure that you're nice and safe and they break in properly. Now the first step before you even move your truck out of your driveway, out of your garage, wherever it is to go in and pump all your brakes up. Don't even put it into gear, just pump your brakes, make sure the truck is running to have proper fluid because you did compress all the calipers. That's going to allow the fluid to fill back up and you'll have a good looking pedal. Now, if you are installing brand new brake fluid, you can go ahead and bleed your entire system and use the Hawk Performance brake fluid to refill your master cylinder. You can see this nice colored printed page is included with the Talon rotors, and what you want to do with that is basically take a look at this to make sure and double check your work. It gives you a nice little diagram here on the way that the drilled and slotted rotors should be facing based on the right hand and left hand side of the vehicle. You can see we've done it the right way. And then also there is the break-in procedure here. Now they recommend that you just don't go out and take this and drive it like you normally would. There is a break-in procedure. Now what they recommend is doing 10 to 20 stops, going from 50 miles an hour to 15 miles an hour. Now, this is at moderate braking, but go from 50 to 15. Make sure you're on a safe road where you can do this and you're not obstructing traffic, but that's going to get you the proper break-in procedure on these. Now they also recommend to avoid high-speed braking or anything performance related until they are properly bedded in. Now while that process is occurring, you might experience some brake pedal stutter or even some louder squealing noises coming from that. And that's potentially from the oil and coating that's on these from the factory to make sure that they don't rust when they're in shipping to you. Now with these brakes, you are going to experience a heck of a lot better braking than factory, and I'm super excited with this big of a truck and 37-inch tires to experience how that is on the road. Now if you guys are interested in checking out Hawk Performance pads and rotors for your vehicle, be sure to visit cjponyparts.com. We've got a wide variety that'll fit your on-road and off-road rigs.